Well, not where I normally am. I'm actually away from house, away from my domicile. But and I'm not really sure if this is even going to work. Um, because I'm I'm live casting from someplace that doesn't have great Wi-Fi. Um, so or it wasn't looking so great a couple like a an hour ago or so, but now maybe it's better. In any case, I thought I wanted to just give this a shot, give it a whirl, give it a spin. And I know that I'm not, you know, I've said before, I am following presidential politics 0% of the time, and that's not exactly true. It's more like 0.02% of the time. But I thought I would come on just because this might be, I don't know, maybe this would be something that would be a hot topic of conversation, and I don't know. It's certainly relevant to uh, things that are happening in the country or the state of the country, um, and whether we're going to be able to stick together or not, whether we're gonna uh, whether we're just going to fall apart. Um, so I don't really have a prepared spiel like I normally do when I do live casts, because this was a very impromptu thing. And maybe this wasn't something I should have. I guess I didn't make an announcement ahead of time. I thought that maybe I've done impromptu live casts before, where a lot of people hopped on, and but I've also had others that were abysmal failures. It's looking like this might be the latter. I don't know. I'm not seeing many people out there. So, huh, conservative, the shooter didn't tip you off. No, I'm nowhere. I'm nowhere close to where the shooting happened. Um, yeah. It's. I have to say, as a layman, as a novice, as a non-marksman, as someone who does not know much about bullet trajectory, um, but still as someone who has a semblance of common sense, or an iota of knowing what looks, an iota of an inkling of knowing what looks fishy. I've got to say this looks fishy. Now, um, I think it would be foolish to jump to any kind of conclusions at this point, because the way, you what we've seen, I mean, any kind of conclusions, any are any final conclusions would be really silly to reach. And I'm just fumbling for words here because this is impromptu. I'm just speaking off the top of my head. But what I saw. I mean, I watched coverage. I watched footage of the event. I've heard from at least one witness, maybe the same one y'all heard from, um, who said that he saw a shooter he saw the shooter get up on, I guess the event, it was this outdoor event somewhere in rural Pennsylvania, and that he claims that he saw the shooter get up on a roof, um, and and that he was up there for a long time, and he and his friends. This is what this guy claims, and this was he said this in an interview with the BBC. Now he was a big time all out Trump supporter. He didn't even feign any kind of impartiality. He was there, at this event to cheer for Trump. He was wearing his Trump hat and his Trump T-shirt and stuff. And so, anyway, if you want to cast doubt on his, what he reported to have seen, then based on his clear partiality, then I guess you can do that. But in any case, he was speaking to a reporter from the BBC. BBC is not terribly friendly to Trump, as you know, as most mass media are not. And but the BBC reporter case, he did a good job interviewing this guy. He just let him talk. He wasn't nasty to him. He wasn't. He just asked him what he saw, and the guy basically went off and told him what he saw. And what he said that he saw was this somebody climb on top of this roof with a rifle, and that he was very conspicuously there. And he says he and a bunch of his friends tried to get the attention of the Secret Service or police, or those who were there for the event, for security purposes, and that nobody cared, nobody intervened, and nobody did anything until shots were actually being fired. This is what he claims. I would show you that interview right now, but I can't. But I bet you can find it. Unless they've tried to scrub it, which is possible. But this is I don't know. It's probably already been downloaded a bunch of places. We've learned our lessons by now about the mass media and their deceitful ways. So this is probably not going to be footage that's going to be lost. So anyway, so if that is true, if what this witness is claiming is true, then there are two possibilities that I see. Well, there are three possibilities. I'll start with the possibility that strikes me as the least plausible, which is that the shooter was just some guy, some angry anti-Trump guy who, all on his own, just decided to take out to try to take out Trump. The fact that he wasn't spotted earlier and taken out before he could actually get his rifle out and start firing was just a test to the what do they call it? The fog of war. I mean, it wasn't war, but it was like shit happens, and sometimes even the most prepared people just don't see something when you think they would, and it was just a fluke. and that's it. The story just ends there. And by the way, I don't think there's any information. Maybe someone can correct me, but I don't believe there's any information about the shooter at this point, except that he was killed um, after he opened fire. Um, actually, neither devout. Well, maybe allergies. I'm not sick, but I'm sorry if I'm not sounding my best. Yeah, so that's possibility number one. Possibility number one, the lone nut, you know. Uh, and possibility number two is, of course, the one that um, probably everybody suspects, which is that this shooter was not a lone nut, but he was put up to the task by some alphabet organization. Um, uh, CIA or otherwise, or it doesn't really matter. Well, it matters who it was, but the point is that they put him up to it. Um, okay, and I don't normally respond to people's comments until after I've done my spiel, but this is a rare occasion where I don't really have a spiel. I'm just totally winging it here. Okay, Jean says I think he sounds like sound. He just sounds like that. So you think it's just some guy? Um, the lone nut theory. I mean, it's possible, but given everything that we know right now about how the authorities operate and the skullduggery that's just typical of them, it's something that I think you're going to have a hard time convincing a lot of people of around here and probably most places. Juxtaposition says, according to the pic of him dead, he looked white. All right, I wasn't even thinking about the guy's race. Um, but all right. Um, hard to tell, but he looked white. Well, okay. Um, you're just okay. I'm sorry, Jean-Marie. I misunderstood you, or Jenry. Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Yes, and it's all speculation at this point. It'll become known in time. Yeah, true. It is all speculation, but it is something that I think it's very interesting to speculate upon at this time. Um, Jeffrey Long writes, Trump said on a podcast last night he was going to 100% release JFK files. Okay. That's one of those, show me, don't tell me kinds of things. I mean, that's that's one of those things where I don't believe that he's going to do it until he actually does it. Talk is cheap. But I mean, I've heard things about the files. I've heard from other sources, and I don't know the veracity of this, but I've heard from other sources that he was going to release the files and then was talked into not releasing them because he just realized that it would be too and people saw what actually went down. Okay, I cut off for a second there, but I think I'm back. Yeah, but yeah, that is something. I mean, I'm not. It is one of the things to consider, something to throw in the mix. So I said that's the first possibility, lone nut. Second possibility, what most of us would guess that it's some uh, um, establishment deep state stooge out to do the dirty work of the deep state by taking out Trump. Third possibility is this was something, it's like third possibility that we have to be uh, alive to, or we can't just dismiss, is that this is that maybe the deep state, or for lack of a better word, or some part of the deep state, because it's probably not a monolith, wants Trump to succeed, and they could have set this up as, like, I don't even know what it would be called. Would it be called a false flag if you stage a fake assassination, or if you stage an assassination that doesn't work, a failed assassination, um, but it was meant to be it was meant always to be a failed assassination that would look like an assassination because of the effect that would have. I don't even know what that would be called. Um, um, but that's the third possibility, and I'm open to that possibility too, because I don't trust anybody. Um, you know, I'm I I would rather Trump win than that he not win, but that doesn't mean that I trust him, or necessarily think that he's a good guy, or that I necessarily think that the entire power structure is against him. Because if the entire power structure were against him, he never would have been president at all in the first place. So three possibilities as I see them, and maybe there are other possibilities too that I'm not that I haven't that haven't crossed my mind yet. Juxtaposition writes, I'm only concentrating on that, the race of the shooter, since many have said he was Middle Eastern looking. Oh boy. Oh God. I mean, that would be so 2002. That would be so 2002 if they made him Al Qaeda or something like that. That's like, that'd be like, come on, man. Haven't we moved on? It's 2 decades later. And others, Asian, particularly Chinese. Okay. That it would, if it is just a pissed off anti-Trump guy, then there's plenty of white people who fit that description. Plenty of them, and they all live in my parents' neighborhood. I mean, they don't all, but I mean that's an example. The sort of people who live in my parents' neighborhood are examples of that, of those kinds of pissed off white people, or angry anti-Trump people. And in that case, I think there's something to be said for the kind of language that's been used. I think Biden was quoted as saying, "We're going to put a bullseye on Trump." And I took a screenshot, and this was quoted in the New York Times, and I took a screenshot of that, and I saved that picture, because they're probably going to try to scrub that now too. Okay. Henri says, the thought crossed my mind. I don't think Mr. Trump would be ballsy enough to go through with such a plan, as ballsy as Trump is. I mean, I don't know him. So I don't know what he would be willing to go through. He might not even have been in on it, to make it more authentic. What's more important to me is the motivation behind the shooter. The authorities will probably recover a lot of material from his residence and put it together. I imagine it may be censored, though. Mm. Hmm. Well, and what we hear about the motivation of the shooter, can we believe that? You know, did we believe what they said about Lee? Well, yeah, people in 1963 did believe what they said about Lee Harvey Oswald because people in 1963 trusted their government. And they thought the government they thought they were being ruled by good and wise men. Uh, there was far more trust. Today, that's not the case. Um, so I don't know whether like I'd be interested in hearing what the story is behind the alleged shooter, but I would take it all with a grain of salt because I don't know what the it must be really easy to get somebody to do something and then you know or to plan something and then when it goes awry to say oh he's just a lone nut. We didn't, of course, we didn't give him any help. We're not those kinds of people. We're not in the business of assassination, right? we, uh, we here in the CIA the, the American political establishment and the deep state, we don't assassinate. We don't do those kinds of things. Um, I don't know. This is not really not necessarily a brainstorming session, but that's my first reaction to an event like this is just to instead of just I think a lot of people are just reacting to the event and I guess that's understandable but I want to try to understand exactly what the event was and unfortunately there's no real way to do that because unless we have unless you're an insider um, we can't know. Now, um, maybe it also is true that maybe this witness who spoke to the BBC isn't really all that credible. I think maybe what we'll start hearing in the next couple of days, and I hate doing this. I hate this stuff. Like this is part of what I hate about. It's like, oh well, here's how they're going to try to spin it. And it's so dispiriting and demoralizing to just approach things like not from the point of view of what's true and what's false, but like, okay, here's what we're going to start to hear. Here's what we're going to start to see. Um, you know, I just hate that. I hate thinking in those terms. I hate talking that way. I hate like entertaining that kind of line of thought. Um, I just find it very dispiriting. It's like it's like the important questions just get brushed off, and it's all about spin, and it's all about how uh, how you it's all about politics and how you project yourself. But they'll probably try to make it sound like this guy was just a nut, and that he didn't really know what he was saying, and that the shooter wasn't really that conspicuous or whatever. I mean, they'll try stuff like that, but we should not believe them. Um, yeah. Uh, but what should we believe? I don't know. It could also be that's the thing. We can't really believe anything. We can't really believe anything. You know, maybe this Trump guy who happened to this big time Trump supporter. Maybe he was a plant. Um, he certainly was. He got the attention of this BBC reporter. Um, uh, I hate to be that cynical about it, but you just never know.